Hi, welcome to my RP 699 video presentation. I'm Lynn Lang from St. Louis, Missouri, a student of the International Institute for Restorative Practices, or IIRP. This is a social science that holds relationships at the highest priority, strengthening relationships between individuals and social connections within communities. This video will provide viewers with information about virtue-based restorative discipline, or VBRD, a Catholic response to bullying. What began as school-based practices expanded to include other organizations and parish, thereby identifying this evolving work as virtue-based restorative practices. And you'll learn about two main ideas that maximize the potential for these practices. The first is recognizing the application for restorative leadership in community, business organizations, members of religious communities, and social emotional learning and virtue literacy for schools that have been advanced in their implementation of VBRD and have a solid foundation for interpersonal skills with virtue and a greater understanding of human emotion with social emotional literacy. I was hired to develop a model to address bullying in Catholic schools. And as we know, unwanted aggression plagues our American schools, with studies revealing name-calling, teasing, rumors, and physical harm affecting nearly half of our students. Restorative practices is a powerful antidote to this exclusion and bullying, and includes such processes as circles, restorative conferences, the social discipline window, compassionate witnessing, and fair process. So for me, it was compelling to facilitate restoration at a time when we were separating offenders and victims and upholding zero tolerance policies for bullying. Paychecks simply aren't enough to satisfy the human need for happiness, and greater mission and shared values provide deeper satisfaction within organizations than greater earnings. Catholics and other Christians are committed to the apostolic mission of Jesus Christ in "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, even as I have loved you." So this commandment of love is a foundation of leadership and a vision for deeper emotional connection. So let's talk about virtue before we apply it to 21st century leadership. These virtues are holy habits that imitate God and lead us to heaven. And these first foundational virtues are Catholic virtues found in Scripture and in Catechism of the Catholic Church. But I use more user-friendly ones for children found in the book of Colossians and Scripture. And these are from Peterson and Seligman, and they say that these are universal core characteristics valued by moral philosophers, and they make up aspects of excellence that are important and absolutely critical for the survival of the human species. And then these are 10 virtues that have been determined for outstanding leaders, known by Guiney and Green. And they say that while ethics and virtue are vital, effective leaders must connect these traits to results, and they see these virtues as critical to results. So by simple definition of the dictionary, it's hard to wrap our heads around leadership. But according to Mark Strom, in his book, Lead with Wisdom, he says we look for guides with a sense of direction and a sure compass to open space, find a path, set a course, walk the walk, walk in our shoes, and help us to progress. And isn't this the wisdom of the social discipline windows with box? So we are the sum of all these things, and we want to guide our guide to prove his or her credibility in character, work, and action. And by very nature of virtue of leadership, they allow us to emerge in our best potential as well. So by integrating virtue and leadership skills, potential leaders can engage in practices that align with their individual gifts and leadership skills and promoting the greater good. This would result in individualized action plans and self-determination in setting leadership goals. So restorative practices and virtue literacy grew naturally out of the VBRD framework. It became quickly evident that by building a strong infrastructure for staff circles, compassionate witnessing, and professional learning groups, dynamic restorative practice virtue literate leaders were emerging with a new vision for a 21st century workforce. So as we look at the second idea of social emotional literacy, think about what it means to be a good doobie, or repeating the optimistic mantra, I think I can, I think it can. These are the very earliest beginnings in an early age of social emotional learning. People with a positive outlook are more productive, motivated, and likely to achieve their goals on the job. The Collaborative for Social and Academic Emotional Learning, CASEL, is dedicated to the ongoing advancement of social emotional learning and offers this working definition, that it is a process through which children and adults acquire effectively and effectively apply the knowledge, attitudes, and skills necessary to understand and manage emotions. They achieve positive goals, they feel empathy, and they maintain positive relationships and make responsible decisions. So by looking at this illustration, linking virtues with specific emotions can result in experiencing more harmony, intrinsic joy, and can ultimately lead to the benefits of enhanced learning. So it includes these concepts here, that we become aware of ourselves, and then we become aware of other people. We learn to manage ourselves with temperance and self-control. And in that fourth quadrant, that quadrant drives leadership. That's where true change agents and true leaders are operating at their full potential when becoming proficient in the relationship management quadrant. Each step along the way provides opportunity to align clusters of virtues. The social emotional connection for youth would first require professional development for staff. Recently, in an urban 5th grade classroom, there was significant conflict involving name calling. Well, our framework was to talk about frustration. And so when they discovered that their frustration was different than someone else's, then they were able to start looking and identifying it within themselves and one another, that awareness of not only frustration, but other connecting emotions. And so the final question that we asked in the circle of the girls was, well, what virtue can you practice when you experience frustration? What that might bring you some relief? What virtue could that be? And then the next question would be, what can you do for others when you see them experiencing frustration? And what virtue would you be practicing? When adults find this meaningful, it will be easier to teach it to children. And this emotional vocabulary can be significant in a relationship intimacy. In bringing these ideas together for virtue-based restorative practice, each summer I host a training in St. Louis for Catholic schools nationwide. And this past summer, a pastor gave a segment on holy restorative practices and holy identity. And that became the foundation for a greater understanding of making the connection with leadership and with social emotional learning, as all the administrators in that track were able to listen to this wonderful presentation. And then they had reflective sessions that followed with self-survey instruments and reflective discussions in circles. Proved to be an outstanding portion of the Summer Institute, according to the evaluations. These actions connect with social emotional learning and seeing the self-awareness of their own survey results and the social awareness of their peers, management, and then the relationship management that connected to that. These administrators took time to reflect in circles and walked away after 2 days with a leadership action plan in place. This wonderful grid shows the connection between the Catholic theological virtues, the Peterson and Seligman 6 core virtues, the Guinea and Green virtues of outstanding leaders, and how those interconnect with social emotional learning. When these concepts collide, the result is an explosion of love that provides profound wellness, connectedness, and productivity, which is the definition and the goal of restorative practices. Thank you.